Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first annual Firedog's Top 30 Strongest One Piece Characters list. That's a mouthful. Featuring a few biased picks, multiple ties, and what? No, Boa? This is going to be one of the craziest and most fun Top 30 Strongest Characters lists I think you'll see this year. And for those pissed about Boa not being on this list, don't worry, I was mostly kidding. I had originally completely forgotten her when making my list, and then I remembered more and more, so this list needed quite a lot of rewriting and changing. I intended to put this video out at the end of Wano, but I'm too excited to make this video, so here I am. I will be basing this list off of context clues and feats we see in the series, so characters like Dragon and Eam will not be on this list. Without further ado, let's begin with our last place contender. At number 30, we have... I don't think this placement is too crazy. Dofi is really strong and in my opinion is comparable to the lower tier Yonko commanders such as Cracker or Jack. His mastery of his devil fruit, the Ito Ito no Mi, gives him access to his awakening, and he is also a master of Haki. He possesses all three forms of the stuff, but it isn't confirmed whether or not he has or is even capable of using Conqueror's coding. He was able to defeat Law as well as threaten the lives of everyone on Dressrosa, even the Admiral Fujitora. The risk he poses to anyone he faces and his charismatic demeanor make him truly a threatening figure in the One Piece world, and for that reason, I place him here. But the sad truth is that this is a strength list and not a characters I like list, so Doflamingo sits here. Moving on to our number 29 spot, we have the one and only Biscuit Man. I feel like a lot of us have forgotten how long the fight between Luffy and Cracker actually was, and how much Luffy had to push himself to defeat Cracker at that time. Luffy had to go into Gear 4 countless times, and over the course of an 11-hour fight, he would have had to use it so many times. And Cracker's ability to make an army of extremely powerful biscuit warriors just by clapping a lot is also a force to be reckoned with. But ultimately, I believe he would fall all the same to our next placement. At number 28, we have... Too many people sleep on Magellan, especially when we saw the man nearly kill both Luffy and the entirety of Blackbeard's crew and Impel Down. I shouldn't have to explain too deeply why I believe Magellan should be here. He is a master with his devil fruit, a devil fruit of considerable power and danger to anyone other than the user. If it weren't for Ivankov, Luffy would be dead right now. No contest. But there is a contest between our next placement between two individuals of considerable power. That's right, we have our first tie. At 27th place, we have... Remember that joke I made about Boa not being on this list like, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 minutes ago? Well, this is where I would put her if I had remembered her. Quick tangent, if any placement has two people, the first person mentioned is who I put there initially, and the second is somebody who had slipped my mind when writing my original list. Anyways, I see Weevil and Boa to be individuals of very similar strength. Weevil is known to destroy entire islands, while Boa is strong enough to lead a nation of strong warriors, all of whom are capable of Haki. Boa herself is a conqueror, and at this point in the story it would make sense for her to be a user of Conqueror's coding. On the other hand, we have Weevil, who single-handedly sought out and destroyed 15 crews that were previously working under Whitebeard. 15 of Whitebeard's affiliated crews. We saw what they were capable of at Marineford. These guys are no-names. Some of them were led by previous division commanders who formed their own crews, and all of them were infamous in Paradise and the New World. And while our next contender isn't as infamous as the two previous contenders, our next placement will soon be known as a monster globally. At number 26, we have... Some people were concerned with my sanity when I put Killer here, above Weevil and Boa, but after I explain why I place him here, it'll make more sense. During the roof piece segment of the raid, we see Killer fight against the likes of Big Mom and Kaido, alongside the likes of his Captain Kid, as well as Luffy, Law, and Zoro. And he wasn't just there for support, he actually did some damage on Kaido and Big Mom. However, he didn't do nearly as much as his allies, and his continued survival in this raid is only a matter of luck. But he can never be as lucky as our next contender. At number 25, we have... As a top commander of Shanks, the Yonko with the highest average crew bounty, Luckyroo is without a doubt one of the top contenders of the One Piece world. Based on what little we know about Shanks' crew, it's currently impossible to know his true strength, as well as our next contender's true strength. At number 24, we have Yasop is in the same boat as Luckyroo, quite literally, as he is a top commander of Shanks, probably has a crazy high bounty, and from what we heard in chapter 957, he and his fellow commanders are regarded as monsters. I don't necessarily put Yasop or Luckyroo above or below the other, but for the sake of keeping this simple, I place them at a pretty reasonable spot, I'd say. Based on the fact that we know literally nothing about either one of them, other than the fact that Yasop is a marksman. Our next contender, however, could never be a marksman, as he'd be too popular. At number 23, we have Queen, being one of the most versatile fighters in the series, has one major downfall. He is insufferably arrogant. His arrogance actively hurts him in battle because Queen is more inclined to do things that put him at risk, like attempting to kill the Oiron in the middle of his battle with Sanji. But he ultimately also isn't the strongest, and his durability is pretty mid for a commander. Well, either that or Sanji's barrage of attacks on him was just that powerful. You decide. Despite all of the feats we've seen from Queen, he is ultimately outclassed by our next contenders. At number 22, we have our second tie. King seemed, at the beginning of his fight with Zoro, to be way far and above what Zoro was capable of. However, after Zoro learned the secret to King's Lunarian abilities, he was able to outclass him with relative ease. King, however, is still one of the fiercest opponents Zoro has faced to date, and for once in the time skip, Zoro was finally pushed to his limit. His fight with Zoro and its outcome is what made me decide to place him here. Katakuri is in a similar vein to King, wherein he seemed like a mountain far too tall and steep for even Luffy to surpass, but after Luffy discovered the secret to Katakuri's ability, he was able to defeat him. Even stronger than the right-hand men of Kaido and Big Mom, however, is the descendant of Kaido. Our number 21 spot goes to Yamato is really impressive. Being able to face off against her father, arguably the strongest character in the One Piece world, for the longest amount of time out of anyone in the raid other than Luffy. Her Devil Fruit itself is very powerful, having the powers of ice as well as being able to transform Yamato into a large wolf and wolf hybrid. She also has the ability to heighten her defense by covering her body with stone. She has Conqueror's Haki and is able of using Conqueror's Coating. This puts her at least at the first commander level, and I believe her other abilities and feats put her above both King and Queen. However, I believe her experience and strength does not exceed our next contender. At number 20, we have being the former first commander and right hand of the strongest man in the world brings some merit to Marco. However, he has an amazing Devil Fruit and insane levels of both strength and endurance to back up his former position. His Phoenix Devil Fruit can keep him fighting for hours if not days, and his strength has been seen to be able to not just surpass King, but also Queen at the same time. His fight with them was tough, and I don't think he was going to be able to beat both of them at the same time, but one-on-one, Marco could definitely defeat either King or Queen. While the flames of Marco are not hot, flames of our next contender are, hot. I didn't come up with a joke. Our number 19 spot is Sabo, being the second in command of the most wanted man in the entire world, has to be an immense threat to both the world government and anyone he comes across. His Devil Fruit, the Maramara no Mi, has immense destructive power, and when combined with the Dragon Claw technique, it appears to become even stronger. Sabo clowned Jesus Burgess and was able to rather easily defend himself against Fujitora after just getting the Maramara no Mi. So his base strength was more than enough to be able to take on an admiral, and for that reason I place him here. But our next contenders have permanently segmented themselves in history as some of the strongest. At 18, we have Garp, Sengoku, and Rayleigh. The three of these men have individually had feats in the past and present that puts them still above most others in the series. Garp's involvement in the God Valley incident as well as the Paramount War proved he is still one of the strongest Marines in the series. Sengoku was able to stop Shiki's assault on the Marine HQ years ago, and for years he has also served as Fleet Admiral. And then there's Rayleigh. In his prime, he was compared to his captain in strength, giving him the title Dark King, a man equal to Roger living under his shadow as his partner. So the 3 of these men easily find themselves here, near the middle of our list. More impressive than the 3 of them, however, has been the quick growth and impressive strength of our next contender. At number 17, we have another supernova. Kid, despite his faults and failures, is still a monster of a pirate. He has all 3 forms of haki, but it isn't shown if he can use Conqueror's Coding as of yet. He is, however, an awakened user of the Magnet Fruit, and this ability, in tandem with our next contenders, spoiler alert, was able to severely damage Big Mom, more than she had been in years. However, he was unable to really do anything to Kaido on the rooftop. For that reason, I dropped him here, above his subordinate but below everyone else that fought on the rooftop of Onigashima. However, our next contender has proven to be quite impressive, even more impressive than I ever expected. At number 16, we have one of my favorite characters in the whole series. Law has proven to be one of the top contenders in the verse. He has one of the most powerful devil fruits in the series, an amazingly powerful awakening, and immense strength and haki. He was able to react to attacks from 2 Yonko, maneuver his allies around the battlefield, and still deal damage to both Kaido and Big Mom. And now that he's fighting Big Mom alongside Kid, it's gonna take them defeating Big Mom for them to deserve a spot any higher than where they are now. But for now, I leave them here. While cooking up this list, there was one character in my mind that I was most curious as to where they would end up. And while a deep part of me wants him to be at the number 3 spot, I know he isn't there yet. So at number 15, we have Sanji has gone through an immense amount of growth in Wano, which has officially put him far and above beyond even Kid and Law. He has monster level strength, lightning speeds, master level haki, fire powers, an exoskeleton, and a regen factor. Need I go any further why this guy deserves to be here? He was able to send Queen flying like Team Rocket blasting off again. You know, nobody could argue that Sanji is a top tier and finally has the arsenal to stand up against nearly anyone. This will also further deepen his rivalry with everyone's favorite Mosshead and King of Hell. At number 14, we have Zoro's strength has always been monstrous, even being compared to a demon all the way back in the East Blue. But time and time again, Zoro has faced opponents that seemed impossible to surpass and have annihilated them. King seemed, at first, to be dominating Zoro, but all it took was for Zoro to tap into Conqueror's Coding and learn how King's abilities work to inevitably take him down. So Zoro was stronger than King, but King's defense was just a bit too high. Regardless, Zoro was able to send King falling from Onigashima victorious. From Pirate Hunter to Pirate Hunter, we find ourselves at our next contender, our first admiral. At number 13, we have Now hear me out. Before you go into the comments and yell at me, hear me out at least, okay? Green Bull is an admiral, and admirals have to be very strong. However, the only thing we've ever seen from Green Bull is a silhouette, so I don't feel I can justify him being placed any higher than this. So moving on, we find ourselves at our number 12 contender. The right-hand man of another Yonko, we have
Teruka.
As the second in command of a crew that's shaping up to be one of the final opponents in the series, Shiryu has to be an absolute monster. He is a swordsman and could potentially be one of Zoro's final opponents before facing off against Mihawk. Shiryu will have to be another big hurdle for Zoro to leap for him to even dream of being close to Mihawk's level. And with the destruction of the raid suit, there's really no reason for Sanji to fight Shiryu anymore. But without us seeing anything from him in the series as of yet, I'm going to settle for placing him here. And our next contender could also be one of Zoro's final opponents. At number 11, we have an admiral of the Marines and user of the overpowered gravity fruit. Fujitora stands as one of the most powerful characters in the entire series. He casually was able to battle Law, Dofi, Sabo, and Luffy in a single day and came out of that incident rather unscathed. But with us not seeing much from him other than that, I have to put him here. Moving on to our top 10, we have somebody whose reputation is so infamous, he made Kizaru say his name without his lips touching. At number 10, we have Benckman is a lot like a few others on this list. We don't really have any feats to back up this placement, but Benckman is infamous worldwide and is known as Vice Captain. Not the first mate, not the first commander, the Vice Captain. The partner of Shanks. And someone who is the partner of a Yonko needs Yonko level strength. so for that reason, I put him here. However, we all know very well how strong our next contender is, as we've been following him since chapter 1. At number 9, we have the future Pirate King, the man who will surpass all the Yonko, the man who will stand at the top of the seas as the one who is the most free. The one and only Straw Hat Luffy is someone who has not only impressed, but completely shocked me with his growth not only in Wano, but during his fight with Kaido itself. Being capable of using every form of haki we know of, observation, future sight, armament, Rio, conquerors, as well as coding, he's now able to fight and stand toe-to-toe with Kaido in his base form. What I mean is Luffy is so strong now that he no longer needs to use his gears. At this point, Gears 2 and 3 are just a part of his base form, as they have no drawbacks and are just augments of his base form, not an entirely new form like Gear 4th. Kaido, as far as we know, is one of the strongest, so if Luffy is able to defeat Kaido by himself and still be able to escape Wano after, he's going to be top 3, easily. I said what I said. Moving on to our number 8 spot, we have 2 words. Light powers. Not only does Kizaru have incredible strength and haki, but his fruit is also incredibly overpowered. Light speed is only something the top tiers can match and react to, so to have a top tier individual, Kizaru, who's able to properly utilize and control the full unbridled power of light, makes him even more powerful than what would normally be expected of someone who can use the powers of light, especially if they aren't able to react at light speed. So he rightfully deserves his place here, and it might just take someone like Kizaru to stop our next contender. At number 7, we have There should be no surprise that Mihawk made it into the top 10. I think Mihawk is just slightly below the Yonko, even his former rival Shanks. He stands above all other swordsmen in the series in terms of sword skill, and we're probably going to finally see him show off some of his more powerful abilities in his fight against the Marines pursuing him. Regardless, he's insanely powerful and definitely deserves the number 7 spot. And as cool as Mihawk is, he isn't nearly as cool as our next contender. And by cool, I mean cold. At number 6, we have I won't speak long on Kuzon, but the man was able to fight Sakazuki for 13 days before ultimately being quote-unquote defeated. I believe they came to an agreement and that it was a draw, but regardless, from what we know, Kuzon lost to Sakazuki, so I place him here. I'm going to try and get through the top 5 as quick as I can, so quickly moving along, we have at our number 5 spot, okay, we're in the top 5 now. I wouldn't say that anyone here is weaker than the other, I just had to place him somehow. Big Mom is crazy powerful. With all forms of haki excluding Future Sight, she's insanely powerful and was able to overpower giants at the age of 6. Her power has only grown, and I would argue that she is either just past or is at her peak right now. And at number 4, we have I know a lot of people think Shanks is the most powerful Yonko, and I can agree with some of the things they say, but in my opinion, all of the Yonko are of relative power for different reasons. Be it raw power, devil fruit powers, haki, what be it. So Shanks would have the strength of Kaido, he just doesn't have a devil fruit like he is or dragon fruit to boost that strength like Kaido does. So I place him here. I don't think he is any weaker than any of the other Yonko, or any stronger. At number 3, we have Blackbeard. The one character in the series other than Sakazuki to be built up as the final antagonist to take down is Blackbeard. He represents the opposite of everything Luffy does and ultimately led to the death of his brother. He has 2 of the strongest devil fruit powers in the series and he has crazy strength even without them. However, I believe these 2 above him have stood out just a tiny bit more in the story. At number 2, I have Sakazuki. The man who killed Ace, massacred the people of Ohara, and killed his own men, easily one of the most ruthless people in this series and one of the strongest, Sakazuki has been another character who has been set up to be one of the final opponents for Luffy. A user of the Magma Fruit, the fruit confirmed to have the highest offensive power in the series, Sakazuki utterly destroys all who oppose him, leaving nothing but ash. He is ruthless and powerful, but our number 1 spot can only have one winner. So moving on to number 1, we have I mean, you could have seen this one coming. It's Kaido. The narrator said it himself. If the battle is one-on-one, always bet on Kaido. He is the strongest. His haki, his strength, his devil fruit, they all make him the one and only strongest in the series. He has faced countless top tiers during this raid, the Scabbards, Zoro, Killer, Kid, Law, and Luffy, Yamato, and now Luffy again, and he's still going? All the while holding Onigashima with his flame clouds. This guy has the greatest stats out of anyone, and you can't argue with me about it. Well, I mean, you can try, but I'm probably not going to get into it. But given everything we know, there is no other place for Kaido other than number 1. That's it. That's all 30. This took quite a while to write and record, so I sincerely hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the video, and while you're there, subscribe because it's free and you can opt out at any time. And also while you're at it, make sure to hit the bell icon and leave a comment down below what you want to see in the future. I hope you're all happy and healthy, and I'll see you in the next one. Later!